a one-eyed MMA knockout machine conquer the UFC and become a sensation in the world of mixed martial arts? Meet Sharaputdin Magomedov, also known as Shara Bullet, a fighter with an unbeaten record of 12 wins, out of which 10 are by KO. With a remarkable debut at UFC 294, Magomedov has captured the attention of fans and critics alike. In this video, we delve into the life and career of Sharaputdin Magomedov, the one-eyed UFC prospect, to uncover the controversial details that surround his rise in the sport. We'll also talk about his eye surgeries, so stick around till the end. In his UFC debut, Magomedov was the first fight of the night on the pay-per-view card at the Etihad Arena in Abu Dhabi, taking on the experienced Brazilian fighter Bruno Silva. Despite being only 29 years old, he boasts an impressive unbeaten streak of 12 professional fights. It's worth noting that he also has 5 wins that don't appear on his official record due to competing under modified rules. What sets Shara Bullet apart from many fighters from Dagestan is his striking-focused fighting style, with an emphasis on powerful kicks. Sharaputdin Magomedov has had a life filled with controversies and unexpected turns. His sports journey kicked off during his childhood when he played soccer, but he got into a major conflict with an opponent that resulted in his expulsion from the team. This incident ended up being a turning point in his life as he discovered his passion for martial arts. In the realm of combat sports, he initially embarked on a career in boxing and achieved some notable success. However, as he moved to Moscow, he made a shift to Muay Thai and excelled to the point of becoming the Russian champion in the sport. Despite his achievements, he faced a challenge of low wages and mounting debts, which made it difficult for him to access proper training facilities. As a result of these financial constraints, he eventually made the transition to mixed martial arts. In Sharaputdin Magomedov's debut match against Bruno Silva, the first round was a closely contested affair. Silva managed to land some solid combinations, while Magomedov heavily relied on his kicks, targeting Silva's right leg and head. Moving on to the second round, despite Silva's attempt at a takedown, Magomedov displayed his effectiveness even from the bottom position, landing impactful strikes on the ground. As the fight entered the third round, Silva initiated takedowns, but his efforts weren't enough to sway the judges in his favor. In the end, the judges scored all 3 rounds 30-27 in favor of Magomedov. Magomedov's debut was highly anticipated, and he lived up to the expectations with a unanimous decision victory over Bruno Silva. However, some fans were surprised at how easily he allowed himself to be taken down, a strategy he later revealed was intentional. "My plan was to finish the fight from the ground, to warn people they can't just take me down. I'll be punching just as hard from there," he said. Prior to this, Bullet's winning streak included a swift victory over Kushal Vyas at TFC 10 on December 11, 2022, where he technical knockout just 8 seconds into the first round. Other notable victories in his career include a unanimous decision win against Mikhail Rogozin at Russian Cage Fighting Championship RCC 13 on December 3, 2022, and a TKO over Sergey Martinov at RCC Intro 22 on August 13, 2022, achieved in the third round with a knee strike at 2 minutes and 34 seconds. Magomedov has consistently demonstrated his prowess, with victories in various events such as Arena Global 17, AMC Fight Nights 106, AMC Fight Nights Maniv vs Ismailov 2, AMC Fight Nights 103, CWM MMA Jinwoo Men 2017-2018 Season Stage 6, the King FC, the King Fighting Championship, the CWM MMA Jinwoo Men 2017-2018 season, stages 4 and 2, showing a mix of knockout, technical knockout, and decision wins in his impressive MMA career. But that's not the only thing that brought him to public attention. Another thing that he's known for is his mall brawl. In 2022, Magomedov faced a significant controversy when he got involved in an altercation the previous year. The incident began when he confronted a man who was displaying affection in public. A physical brawl ensued between Magomedov and the other individual, but onlookers swiftly intervened and put an end to the scuffle. However, Magomedov later waited for the individual outside, and in a shocking turn of events, he rendered his victim unconscious with a single powerful punch and disturbingly stomped on the individual's head. Magomedov acknowledged that his actions were inappropriate, but he also explained that the incident occurred in Makhachkala, a Russian town where public public displays of affection are seen as a breach of a specific moral code. He stated, "One has to understand the situation. In Makhachkala, there are unwritten rules, a kind of moral code of our own." Magomedov further clarified, "In Moscow, it is acceptable to show affection in public, but with us, it's not acceptable. I could not stay silent." This sheds light on his perspective and shows that cultural norms and local expectations played a role in his reaction. Magomedov provided further insight into the incident by explaining, "If it was a tourist or a stranger, then you can simply ask them to stop. I just intended to inform him that his behavior was inappropriate, but unfortunately, I couldn't effectively communicate that. He misinterpreted my intentions, and pride became a factor. He struck me, catching me off guard. I suggested that we resolve the situation through dialogue, but he resorted to physical aggression. I admit that my final punch was excessive and unnecessary." Due to this incident, his UFC contract was put on hold. Nonetheless, after this episode, Sharaputdin went on to secure 3 more victories in Russian MMA events. Subsequently, he was recently signed by the UFC, marking a significant development in his career despite the previous setback. Now, that's not the only beef he had. There were more controversial moments in his career, and one of them involved a jiu-jitsu match. Prior to his fight with Silva, Magomedov had not competed since winning by knockout in just 8 seconds in the previous December. In an effort to stay active and prepare for his UFC debut, he participated in a jiu-jitsu competition earlier that year. During the jiu-jitsu match, Magomedov faced Jakub Bilko at the ADCC Southeast Asia tournament. Unfortunately, he found himself in a challenging situation and was ultimately forced to submit to a heel hook. However, it's worth noting that the match gained attention not only for the submission, but also because of an incident where Magomedov kicked his opponent, adding another layer of controversy to his career. Moments after the heel hook submission, Magomedov kicked his opponent and appeared visibly frustrated. Magomedov's perspective is that he had spoken to Bilko, a specialist in leg locks, before the match, and they had an agreement that Bilko wouldn't attempt the submission because Magomedov's UFC debut was impending. However, Bilko provided a contrasting account of the situation on Reddit. According to him, Magomedov had tried to communicate with him in Russian before the event, but since he didn't understand the language, he felt that he might be under threat. Bilko's recollection of their interaction was limited to this language barrier, and he mentioned that he couldn't agree to any terms because he couldn't understand what was being discussed. He sought the assistance of his colleagues to translate the conversation, suspecting that there might be some conflict. When he learned that Magomedov was concerned about the risk of injury, Bilko acknowledged it, but maintained that he never agreed to refrain from using his leg lock techniques during the match. According to Bilko, even if the request had been made more directly, he still wouldn't have agreed to it, finding the entire situation rather peculiar. This differing interpretation of the pre-match conversation added another layer of complexity to the controversy surrounding the incident. Now let's talk about the loss of vision in his eye. Fighting with just one functional eye is undeniably a formidable challenge, and clearing the pre-fight medical evaluations can be a battle in itself, as evidenced by the experiences of UFC legend Michael Bisping. Fortunately, Sharaputdin Magomedov isn't completely blind in his right eye, but has partial vision due to various complications. He had to undergo 8 eye surgeries, which forced him to put his career on hold for 2 years as he battled through the worst of his injuries. Ultimately, Magomedov had no choice but to have his right eye completely removed after losing vision. In an interview with Athletistic, the undefeated 12-0 MMA fighter shared his thoughts on the eye surgery, particularly the fear he had about an injection into the eye before the procedure. He mentioned watching a video of it and finding it very unpleasant and thinking it was the most boring thing ever. The operation involved administering local anesthesia, but the patient could still feel everything. Magomedov went on to explain the process of removing the eye, describing how they pierce it from 2 or 3 sides. He likened one of the punctures to a camera and the other 2 to mechanisms to pump or extract something. He emphasized that he had to go through various stages and his eyes went through a lot during the surgery. The financial cost of the surgeries was significant, but at the time, he had the support of his parents. Magomedov found himself in a tough situation during which he couldn't train or compete for 2 years. He considers his entire career as divided into 2 phases, before and after this injury. After the injury, he gathered his resolve, had the belief of his friends, and managed to get back on track in his career. And the rest, you know.